Wow, James. while we've got a smile on our faces, partly because the television is now miraculously turned on in the background.
Don't know how that happened.
But we're going to talk about, obviously, a more recent thing, what has been going on at the minute, and that is the Derby win last week.
Yeah.
It's just brilliant, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was incredible. Like, going into the game, the Twitter reaction was sort of like split completely between you're not a real Red if you don't want the seniors to go out, but then it's like you're not a real Red if you don't want the kids to play, we need to focus on the league, and it was like the worst place to be completely.
Yeah, I was there, and I remember, in the ground looking at the team news, hearing people around being like, oh no, I can't believe he's gone weak for this game. It was difficult for Klopp.
Yeah.
The players are knackered, we're pushing for a title. They've played so much football this year and last year.
Exactly.
And our youngsters are good enough, and I think Klopp summed it up perfectly for me after the game, where he says, I picked a team that would have been hungry to play in this game. And every single youngster would dream of playing for Liverpool at Anfield in the Merseyside derby, and that's exactly what they got. And for me, I said to my dad straight away when I read that team, you know what, I think this team could win this game. And it's one of them where it's a massive risk.
Yeah.
Everton haven't won at Anfield since 1999. I didn't want that to change.
Yeah.
I was 1 month old the last time Everton won at Anfield, and they haven't won since. So that just says everything, really.
Mm-hmm.
And I've said to you before, straight after the game, Everton had their chances in the first half. They did, but they didn't take them.
Mm-hmm.
And it's one of them for us where we took our chance, and we're going to break it down player by player, in terms of the young lads that played, because they were just amazing. And obviously there's going to be a lot on Curtis.
Yeah,
because, let's start with Curtis. Wow.
Yeah.
What a goal.
It's a proper Curtis Jones finish, wasn't it? Sort of cut in from the outside, just get your foot completely around it, take your shot early as well, when no one's expecting you to. You're meant to sort of either take a touch, aren't you, to your stronger side. He just snapped at it. And his body was over the ball too when he took it. So to get his foot underneath...
What I love about it is I've watched it too many times now. But you see Oxlade-Chamberlain, obviously a more senior player, seen him score loads of goals like that from that distance. He's screaming for the ball. You can see him screaming for it. But Curtis Jones, young lad, doesn't get as many opportunities in the first team, cuts in, takes a glance up, back down at the ball, and he knows he's going to hit that top corner. It's not a fluke. We've seen him do it loads of times in the youth side.
He knows Pickford's not reaching that.
Exactly. He knows little T-Rex arms has no chance. So he goes, you know what, postage stamp this. Off the end of the side of the bar, Pickford has no chance, does he? So
not many keepers are saving that, but especially not Pickford.
Especially not someone with very small arms.
Exactly.
But apart from that, everyone focuses on the goal because of how spectacular it was. But I thought it was a very mature and clever performance all round from Curtis Jones. I thought when he got on the ball, he was very good, skillful, looked like he was going to threaten that Everton back line. And, constantly our young lads caused players that have played for many years in the Premier League, like Seamus Coleman, Fabian Delph, a lot of problems.
Exactly.
You saw angry Mason Holgate again, which was absolutely brilliant because I absolutely hate him. And you could tell by the end of the game, and the big thing for me was Everton were woeful. Everton were really, really poor, but our kids made them look even worse than they were.
And that's pretty hard to do as well, make Everton look even worse. But I think what impressed me though about Curtis was the fact that we were seeing Origi drop into the left-hand side, and Curtis Jones was operating in that sort of central spaces, like a false nine, which he's been doing, hasn't he?
We've seen him doing it in the under-23s, and
he's very good with his back to goal because he knows how to bring. He knows where Harvey Elliott's going to be making that run. He knows when Neco Williams is going to be sort of making that overlap, and he can see things happening before it does. And I think having sort of such a technical player like Firmino, in a sense, sort of in that sort of 10-9 role, and having bigger lads on the outside, it helps sort of focus the attack, doesn't it?
What I picked up was Curtis Jones almost had a free role. If you noticed, he was sort of playing in the 10, more towards the left, and then as you say, it was interchanging because Minamino's a Firmino sort of style player, so he was dropping deep. Curtis Jones and Origi were then rotating between forward
Exactly.
and the left, and it was just a very, very clever performance from Curtis Jones, and he was everywhere. And it's like I say, he deserved that goal.
Yeah,
you know,
definitely.
everyone on that pitch, I would have wanted him to score the most, because for how he's been this season, you know, he was left out against Arsenal, came off the bench, influenced the game, scored the winning penalty. He deserved that. He deserved,
definitely.
you know, a local lad scoring in the Merseyside derby at Anfield. And we've seen since then, with all the talk that Klopp cancelled any idea of a loan move because he believes he's one of the players ready for the first team. We know he's a player with confidence, and this will give him even more confidence.
Like, he's got that ball, he's got that sort of like swagger on the ball, and like off the ball too. You can see that he's making those sort of like progressive runs on the outside. He's dropping into space and he's occupying defenders. Like, he's hugging that sort of defensive line, knowing that if he makes a run, he'll take a defender with him and then leave some space open for someone else. Like, he's so smart on the ball, and I think having that in the first team when we've not really had someone coming up like that for a while, it's amazing, isn't it?
Well, I spoke to Neil Critchley,
Yeah.
obviously, about Curtis Jones before the Villa game, and he was saying how everyone at the club is more impressed. Obviously, that is on our YouTube as well, so if you want, go and have a look at that. Is very impressed with Curtis Jones this season because of how good he's been, and it's hard not to be impressed. And, you know, we're seeing these players go out on loan from the under-23s, and Curtis Jones is a player that I want to stick around. I want him to, because he is a player that can come off the bench and influence the game. He's a player with the swagger, the skill, the ability, and at the minute he's playing with confidence. He's a man with a lot of confidence. It's just a bit of a shame that I think the under-23s aren't going to see much more of him this season.
I think they're going to struggle without him, because he is that leader on the pitch, isn't he? He is sort of the main man, and I think obviously it's poor for them. They've brought in obviously players that we're going to talk about in a little bit, but I mean, it's only going to be good for his development, isn't it, really? He's too good for youth football now. He's way too good.
Yeah, it certainly is. And move on to another player now, Pedro Chirivella. Now, people forget how old he is because he seems like he's been around for ages. Six years, correct me if I'm wrong, 6 years I think he's been at the club. He's had numerous loan moves. He's been here, there and everywhere, really. As I said before, very good against Villa, one of the best players on the pitch. And he led by example there with the captain's armband. Rumours after that he was going to go back to Spain, may have been his last performance for the club. He was phenomenal.
He was my man of the match. Like, I saw at the end of the game, he was sort of the person that I was talking about the most on Twitter. Like, everything, he intercepted every Everton ball through the midfield. He was carrying the ball, and he knows what he's good at too. He knows that he's not going to be playing those sort of Gerrard-esque balls from midfield, so he was playing it simple. He was recycling possession, but he just did it so well. And I think in midfield, like we were saying about Kane before, it's quite easy to sort of be bypassed when you're not the biggest lad and you're not the most sort of naturally gifted, but he plays to his strengths and he does it very, very well.
One thing that really he did really well at as well was you have Larouci obviously on the left when he came on for Milner, very attacking fullback, got caught out defensively quite a lot. Walcott had loads of space when he got the ball. It's a good job it's Theo Walcott. But what Chirivella did really well was he dropped in.
See, I didn't notice that very much at all.
He dropped in really well, and his understanding with Adam Lallana to almost playing that pivot where when Larouci went, one or the other would drop in, the other one would hold in that six. Superb. Brilliant. And I think Adam Lallana was very good for our young lads that game as well. But Chirivella, he was everywhere. He was, as you say, breaking up every attack. And if you look at that Everton team yet again, there's players like Sigurdsson, who has been playing in the Premier League for numerous years. Many thought a couple of years ago that he was a very good,
he's a £45 million player.
Exactly.
I mean, he doesn't deserve to be a £45 million player, but he is. A
title winner.
A serial title winner.
Yeah, exactly. And it's Pedro Chirivella made them look worse than average that day, and that is why there is a lot of talk now about a massive clear out at Everton, and that's what our young lads have been able to do to them. But Pedro Chirivella, for me, there's been lots of talk about Grujic coming back next season and being the understudy for Fabinho. Chirivella's just put his name up there as well. Grujic knows now that once he comes back, he doesn't just walk into that reserve, he's got to fight.
I think there's talk, isn't there, of a sort of a contract extension because it expires in the summer.
And you know what? After watching that game, I mean, Paul tweeted at the time, when has Pedro Chirivella ever had a bad game for the first team? He's not one of them players that stands out for the under 23s, but does he ever have a bad game? Think about it.
Yeah. He's never been really exposed, has he? And like for a midfielder, that's fine. If he doesn't have standout games, that's fine. That's what you want in your midfield, don't you? You don't want sort of a flashy player in the sixth. You want someone that's going to break up possession, recycle it, and sort of instigate attacks. And he does that very well.
He does, and he was very, very important for the win. Neco Williams as well, and this is a wide chat really where we're going to do some comparison work, which I don't like doing, but he is literally the perfect understudy for Trent Alexander-Arnold.
You couldn't ask for anyone better to be working under, could you? Like, they are like for like pretty much the same player. Like they're both rapid on the attack. They both make those sort of inside runs, which you don't really see from a lot of fullbacks at all. They underlap, which is nice to see, to be honest, because they're both incredible going forward too. And then he's got an amazing final product in him as well. Like his crossing ability is brilliant. He was just unlucky that we didn't really have Origi always in the box against Everton.
It was interesting before kick-off, I noticed from where I was sat, Klopp pulled him aside during training and he went to do some one-on-one work with his crosses. So it was obviously something Klopp had looked at and seen that we could hurt Everton with. Obviously, Everton as well have been very vulnerable from crosses and set pieces all season. And as you say, he's a very good crosser of the ball, very good passer. And as you say, like for like with Trent, it will help people that are desperate to see Trent in midfield, because I think Neco Williams has the ability.
His ceiling is high, very high.
Yeah, I mean, Trent has been outstanding in recent weeks. He is, in my opinion, certainly the best right back in the world right now. And we saw from his performance against Leicester over the Christmas period just how good he is. Neco Williams is obviously nowhere near that yet, but what I've said to people is, when you think of Trent first coming through, Neco Williams is as good as he was then.
Exactly.
And you think, actually, if Klopp is a man that wants to move Trent forward into midfield, Neco Williams is there waiting to slot in a right back.
Because like when Trent came through, he was all right, wasn't he? He wasn't incredible. He was just, he did a job, which is what we asked for him. But like when Neco Williams has come in, he's been a standout player. And I know it's obviously different levels of opposition. Trent came on against United and all that. And I think Spurs was his next game, wasn't it? Yeah. And like, I know it's a different sort of kettle of fish completely, but they both have an amazing start to Liverpool's career, and it's going to be a really tough sort of conversation in like 2 years' time, once they're sort of well into their 20s.
I'm just desperate not to lose Neco.
Yeah.
He's a quality player.
He'll be a Premier League player.
Yeah, 100%. 100%. And it's just whether it will be apparent on system. That'll be important for him, because he's one of them attacking right backs, isn't he? And he's still very good defensively though. And I think if he finds the right system in the Premier League, he will be a very, very good Premier League player in the future, because he's that modern fullback. And it's mad that a lot of clubs are searching desperately for modern fullbacks, Tottenham being one of them. And we have two kids in our team that epitomise the modern fullback, really.
It's a shame they both play in the same position.
Exactly.
Really. Having one on the left would have been perfect for in a few years' time.
Well, we have Robbo anyway, so it's one of them. But we'll move on now to Harvey Elliott. I think it's one of them where, because of the other three shining so much, Harvey Elliott really got spoke about, but that says something, because he was a star again.
Exactly, he was incredible. And like, I've criticised him this season for having his amazing, incredible sort of flashy moments, but then at times not being involved in the play and sort of looking a little bit on the outside. But then against Everton, he was amazing. Like, everything he was doing was very sort of calculated, wasn't it? He was making those runs when he wasn't in possession. He was dropping inside. He was always making himself an option when he hasn't really done that in the past before. And like, he's growing like rapidly as a footballer.
I mean, the important thing to look at is you look at the other lads. They're not 16. You know, they've had the more experience. Harvey Elliott's doing this at 16 years old. You know, he's playing with that level of maturity. He's got. It's really good to see as well. 16, able to engage his brain, know exactly what to do, playing against such a good side, boyhood Liverpool fan, and you know, he just looks a lot older.
Yeah.
And he plays with that maturity.
Yeah.
He plays with that swagger and confidence and arrogance. Aged just 16, and it's just so good to see. And you watch him and you think he's a star in the making.
Like, I don't want to be like hyperbolic, but I haven't seen a better 16-year-old maybe before. Like, I don't want to put all the pressure on him, but I haven't seen someone come into a side at such a young age and have that impact straight away.
I hope for your sake that people in the comments
agree
with you. But yeah, I can't think of one at the top of my head. But in terms of Premier League anyway, there are obviously a lot of youngsters that have come through, but in terms of 16, obviously we're both very young.
That much ability. Like,
yeah, exactly.
It's incredible.
But game time is going to be important for him.
Yeah.
He's going to need a lot of game time.
There's no need to rush him at the same time.
Exactly.
Let him perfect his position. Let him sort of maybe learn other positions too, so that when he comes into the first team in a couple of years' time, he's going to be able to offer more than just being your proper right winger. And
we've seen and heard obviously that when he plays in the under-23s and he doesn't sort of put in performances as good.
Yeah.
He's with the first team a lot more. Yeah. Whether it's in the matchday squad or in the travelling squad.
I mean, some players play better when they're surrounded by better players too. Like he has the qualities, and the first team have sort of things that they need from him. Whereas I think he's a level above under 23 football at the times. People aren't making those runs for him. People aren't giving him the ball when he wants it, so he can't really do what he's good at. And that's nothing against the other lads, but I think he's going to suit being in this first team a lot more because of the players that are in that team too.
Larouci as well, I want to just touch upon him because obviously in terms of the youngsters, I think he was still outstanding, but one of the worser youngsters on the pitch. I think going forwards, incredible talent.
I mean, you can see that he used to be a winger. You can see that straight away.
Unbelievable. I remember at one point there's a cross in from the right. I think it was Neco Williams, him or Harvey Elliott, one or the other. Goes way too far and over everyone's heads, and you're thinking, it's gone out for a throw. Larouci, boom. I remember turning to my dad and going, imagine if Milner was on the pitch, no way he's getting to that.
He's still a bit the halfway line.
He got to it and he forced. I think he won us a throw from it as well, which is just like fair play. And it was one of them where, as I say, got caught out defensively quite a lot. Clearly a point that he needs to work on.
Definitely.
But we don't even know yet that he's going to be a left back or where he's going to be. We've seen in the under-23s we like to play him even in the 9.
Exactly.
So I think we need sort of pick a position to him, which again we'll talk later with what we've done this transfer window. I think is to aid that. But we'll certainly see.
I think he's been unlucky though in that sort of he's come from he's come from France, hasn't he? And he's sort of been used wherever there's a gap in the team, even though he's clearly a very good player, but he hasn't sort of found his specialist position yet, has he? I think sort of the next year or so, maybe a loan next year or something like that, will help him sort of fine tune that, because you can see he's got bags of talent and he's got a good final ball on him too, but he just needs to find a team where he can sort of develop a little bit more, I think.